Horror Fam to HHN 365, a Halloween Horror Nights podcast. My name is Mike, and I'm here with my co-host Jonathan. Duff and Jess weren't able to make it tonight. What's up, Jonathan?
Nothing much. I'm excited about the haunt we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, on today's show, we are going to be talking about two haunts, but we're going to mostly be focusing on Knott's Scary Farm in Buena Park, California. We have some stuff to go over before we get there, and we also have a segment from Hunter, who went to Sir Henry's Haunted Trail for us on media night because we were in California. All right, so before we get to our main segments, we have a few H365 news. You had a fun thing that you went to do at the Blum Fest. Where do we want to start, Jonathan? Let's talk about 365 news. What's going on with us?
All right. So for us, we recently went to California. So we've been putting walkthroughs of Knott's houses and HHN Hollywood houses on our various social media channels. If you're interested in that, super interesting. It's fun that in California for those haunts, you can actually take videos. I find that a little fun compared to Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando, though the lines do get a little long and it does hurt the experience a little bit when someone in front of you is just going really slow to get that shot. But yeah, we have videos all, on our social medias for that if you're interested in checking that out. And we also have our own YouTube videos that were released too since we went to California. The first, Duff and Jess let a wheel choose their fate at Halloween Horror Nights. They essentially had a whole wheel with a bunch of different activities such as houses, zones, drinks, food, and they spun it, and then the wheel would essentially tell them where to go, which is fun when the thing you got to go to is super close to you, but not fun when you have to walk all the way at the other end of the park over and over again. Unfortunately, the wheel controls your fate. So that was one of the episodes we released on YouTube, and then there's one more that I actually featured in, and it was a speed run versus a chill day, which was basically I had a task. My friends and I had a task of hitting 20 houses at the event. You had to hit all 10 as well. 20 houses using both standby and express. In addition to watching Nightmare Fuel, and Duff and Jess had the task of having a chill day and just relaxing, hitting all 10 houses, but doing it in a more relaxed fashion. So you can get to see what exactly a rush day is like compared to a calm day. Two different ways to experience the event.
All right, so I guess let's hop right into it. So while we were in California, we sent Hunter to go experience Sir Henry's Haunted Trail Media Night, and he was very nice to record a little segment that we are going to play for you right now.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is not Mike, not Duff, not Jonathan, not Jess. What's going on? It's your buddy Hunter from the Catacombs of Halloween Horror Nights podcast, and, just a shit ton of other stuff that you don't care about. Hey, guess what? HHN 365 invited me out to cover Sir Henry's Haunted Trail for their magnificent 10th year of the event. A huge monumental occasion, and I just want to thank our friends over at 365 for including us. They were out there, they were in the trenches in California, they were doing HHN Hollywood, they were doing Knott's Scary Farm. I don't think they went back to SeaWorld because you heard about that last year, but I know they were really disappointed that they could not make their trip over to Sir Henry's, and I know that they're going to go on another date, but they couldn't make the media preview, and they said, hey Hunter, look, you gave us the Stay and Screamcast name. We've bought it off of you. I got a nice little payout. I put money into stocks with that. I think I invested in the Party City stock. I'm losing thousands of dollars by the day. However, I did get to go cover Sir Henry's Haunted Trail for the folks over at 365. And once again, thank you to them. I've been a big fan of Sir Henry's for a long time. I've been going to the event for about 5 years now, so half of the event's lifespan. And it's just an awesome little local haunt, not too far from the Orlando area. I think, I'm on the further side of Orlando. It takes me about an hour, give or take, to make it down there. However, I always make the trip because I always have a great time. And the mazes have become very familiar. Every year there's a little bit of a change, but I can always rely on there being kind of the shanty seaside house. I can rely on the manor house, and then I can also rely on the massive outdoor trail. But this year, there's an extra little feature that I thought was super cool. But before we get into that, if you're not familiar with Sir Henry's, here's what your ticket's going to get you, okay? You got the 3 haunt experiences. So you got 3 haunted trails, haunted houses, whatever you want to call them. This year, there's a haunted hayride, which is super cool. We're going to talk about that a little bit. There's 2 escape rooms, and then obviously there's some extra, food, there's laser tag, there's axe throwing. It's just a really nice little situation that they've set up. And this year, the promenade area is bigger than ever, which I think is great. But let's talk about the haunt experiences real quick, because they have changed them up. Every year there's a little bit of a re-theme, even though the basis is kind of the same. So this year, where I believe the Sleepy Hollow attraction was last year, there was Moonlight Massacre. And basically they said, hey, what if the witch is kind of like the figurehead for the event this year. So Sir Henry, of course, is the owner, the proprietor of the Sir Henry's Haunted Trail, of course, but the witch, she kind of is running the show between all the attractions. Moonlight Massacre is as you probably figured out, a werewolf situation. So there's this sheep farmer, his name is Thomas. And there's been, he's down on his luck. There's been all sorts of crap going on in his life. And then there's this mysterious figure, and her name is Beatrice. And you know what? Beatrice is actually the witch. So she bestows upon him the curse of the moon. He experiences some great gains over, the next couple years, and then the curse of the moon kicks in. And this is where the werewolf kicks in. So, he's going through the village. He's destroying shit left and right. I don't know if I can swear on this podcast. I think so. But anyways, he's wrecking stuff left and right, and you get to encounter the werewolf several times through this. Like I said, this is the big outdoor maze. There's outdoor elements in all of these mazes or haunted trails, but this is the big one that goes through the woods, and it is always a fun time. And you know what? Bucky Meadow is a great setting. I'm looking forward to seeing how they add to it as the years go on. The next maze that you're going to come across is Tales of the Dead. And what's interesting about this one is they know people have been asking for it. And this is the Sir Henry icon maze, if you will. So you are going into his manor and experiencing the backstory of Sir Henry. He was this great showman who had this troupe of freaks, and they would tour around. They were beloved, renowned all over the world for their acts and chicanery and who knows what else, you know what I mean. But Sir Henry, his bride, was murdered. And that is where everything starts tumbling down. And you know what? That is the basis for this maze here. It is so interesting to see Sir Henry get his own house this year because I don't want to spoil anything, but there's some surprises in this where, if you're really paying attention, there's some little details there that are very cool and do establish a little bit more of the backstory. Of course, I do want to recommend, if you are interested in the backstory of these characters, that you check out the 3 books that have been written on the subject, so go check those out. But yes, if you're looking for more of an exploration of the Sir Henry lore, this is one of the best ways to do it. And then finally, we've got to cover Wicked Waters. Wicked Waters is that, like I said, the sea shanty, the boathouse, as I believe the local community has started to call it. This is another one of those witch houses. This is a slightly different witch. I believe her name is Griselda, and she's trying to resurrect Beatrice, who is in the Moonlight Massacre maze. All this backstory is on the website, by the way. Go and read it. I think that it will improve your journey through the haunt. Of course, they do have the printouts before you go in where you can check things out. But, maybe do a little bit of homework. Why not? It's fun. You'll enjoy it because the detail is there, and I do think that when you're so focused on getting scared, you're kind of like, huh. They're telling me something, but I am too frightened to know what it is. So that's why you need to do your homework. You need to do your preparation. But Sir Henry's in general is classic. The trails this isn't meant to be a disparaging remark or anything like that. They don't change up a ton. The theme changes, but the tried and true set pieces are there year after year, and they get plussed, they get tweaked a little bit. So if you've been to Sir Henry's, or if you've heard about Sir Henry's but you haven't gone, you kind of know what to expect, but there are new surprises this year, and the biggest of which is the Haunted Hayride. The Haunted Hayride is awesome, to be frank. We don't really have an experience like that in the Central Florida area where it's this big production. There's several show scenes. I think it's like 5 or 6 show scenes that you ride through, live actors, animatronics, effects, music, like it's all synchronized, and it's this incredibly cool attraction that frankly I think is worth the price of admission itself. I think that it really revitalizes this event because, like I said, the trails are not samey, but they're they tweak them a little bit every year. It's not a drastic change. It's not like they completely level these things, and why would they? This is a small time operation, and they've got to continue to plus up what they've already got. But the Haunted Hayride really is a new shot in the arm for the event, and I'm not kidding. I think it's totally worth it. Please do make sure to get in line early. The lines will get long depending on your event night. 1000% worth it though, whatever the time period that you wait, because this was incredibly cool. I do want to go ahead and thank again HHN 365 for having me out to cover the event. Once again, this is just a brief little look into Sir Henry's. You know it, you love it. Go check it out. Go support them. This is their 10th year. They've pulled out all the stops, and definitely enjoy the Haunted Hayride. And then finally, I want to thank just Sir Henry and the gang over there for inviting HHN 365 out. I know that they have always appreciated it, and so do I. And I am looking forward to many more years of Sir Henry's Haunted Trail down in Plant City, Florida. Get your tickets. They will sell out. Go on the website. Get them. They're not sold at the front gate. Get on it. You're going to have a blast. Anyways, happy spooky season. You can listen to me on anything else. I'm sure I'll be crashing this podcast soon enough. But for now, you guys smell something?
And we're back. Thank you so much, Hunter.
Hunter, it sounds like you had a fun time.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like you had a blast and got to check out all the experiences. Thank you so much for going for us, and hopefully we'll go later this year. Just not on media night, just another time.
We'll get
for
over there. So if you want to check out Sir Henry's Haunted Trail, make sure that you do purchase your tickets in advance, because they must be purchased in advance, and the ticket information can be found at sirhenryshauntedtrail.com, and I believe it goes till the end of the month. All right, so let's hop right into our main segment. So Jonathan, you have been here before, but I got to experience for the very first time with you and Jess and Duff the glory that is Knott's Scary Farm. So before we hop into our experience, we're going to spend maybe 5 minutes, a very brief overview for people who've never been to Knott's Scary Farm, what it is, how it's different than HHN, just kind of the little bit of, this event has been going on for 50 years. This is the 50th anniversary, so there is so much more that to go over, but we're just going to give you a brief little idea of kind of what is Knott's Scary Farm. So when we're talking about it, it makes a little bit of sense, and then compare it to the differences of what you might experience at HHN. So let's hop right into it. So I think one of the main things that is a bit different at HHN is that at least half or more of the mazes are going to return every year. So they usually have two or three new ones, and they retire them. And the mazes usually last. They're built to last for about anywhere from 3 to 5 years. So they're quite elaborate. They're built to last, and they do for the most part last quite a long time, right, Jonathan?
Oh yeah. These mazes last, I think, like 3 to 5 years, sometimes longer, depending on the house and the popularity of it and everything like that. I know sometimes houses that are received, uh, not as well, or have a little shorter lifespan. But yeah, generally it's a long period that these mazes stay at their event.
Yeah, and sometimes they tweak them a little bit. So for example, one of them last year it had like an interactive shooting element, and then this year it did not. Things like that. So they do change them from year to year to be a little bit different sometimes, but for the most part, they're going to stay the same until they are retired. Also, the other thing is that it has a long and like very storied history. It's essentially the oldest theme park haunt, I believe, in the world. Right, Jonathan?
I'm pretty sure, and that's kind of crazy. It's funny because we actually, when we were in California for like our free time, and we were in like our the living room, we just watched this Not Scary Farm documentary. This terrible Not Scary Farm documentary. But it actually caught us up a lot on a lot of the history of the event, and how they approach things, and their their area of importance. For example, most haunts, I feel like it's the opposite, or at least for HHN. But here it's like, uh zones are considered like the creme de la creme of Not Scary Farm. That
Yeah.
is their main thing, and then the houses were kind of just also there. It's obviously that has changed over time, but zones were like, and watching in that video, like you had to start in a house before you went to a zone. They had like a very interesting casting process. It was really cool to watch.
Yeah, it seems like the top like characters are really are put out into the zones. It's where they are given the most freedom. It's the most prestigious. They get to have the most fun. They get to interact with you. The zones are tend to seem to be kind of like the I mean, not necessarily the guest wise, but as character wise, kind of the most exciting place to be.
For sure. And like you can tell, cuz overall this entire haunt, the houses and the zones are much more open than Halloween Horror Nights is. They get in your face a lot more. They like are able to, I feel like they're able to improv a bit more at Knots, in the houses cuz there are no triggers. But also in the zones there's lots of conversations you can have.
Yeah, not
Um
always a good thing. If you
oh,
if you've been following TikTok, we won't go and get into some of the videos that got out
oh
from opening
god.
night. But yeah, sometimes they give the characters go a little too far in the improvisation of what they do in those houses. But yeah, but it's also a lot of fun, and they get to have a lot of freedom.
And I think one of the most interesting parts about Knots. There's two. One, that the houses are way longer, like sometimes 3 times longer than Halloween Horror Nights houses in Orlando, which is really cool. That can be a detriment sometimes. Sometimes there are like drags, in the house, but uh, they are an incredible length. But also the biggest thing that has become very popular in haunts now, but it started at Knots. This is very much a Knots thing, and it seems like they are the most into it. And that is, they created the slider scare,
Yes.
which is one of the coolest things in that documentary. Watch the whole, like there was a whole section based on like slider school and teaching everyone how to slide properly and do tricks and things, so you can't get hurt, or at least as safe as you can be in those types of costumes. And it was incredible about how much time they put in that documentary just for the sliders. That is very much a Knots thing, and we even got to see a lot of them at the event, and they were really cool.
Yeah, another thing, I think they're phasing this out a little bit, but a lot of the houses tend to have like a little opening moment or pre-show, where
Hmm.
they kind of put you into a little room for about 30 seconds to kind of give you a bit of a story, and that is kind of a way that they kind of pulse into the houses a little bit. And then I've also noticed that the houses have a bit of a kind of a cadence where they kind of start in like a slow build, and then they always kind of gradually get more and more elaborate, and have like special effects, and there's always at least one or two just like really big special effects scenes, and it seems to be kind of a not scary farm thing to like start off slow and then build to this really big moment. It seems to me anyway.
Oh, for sure. Kind of in the same vein, I'd say another big difference is that I mean Hollywood used animatronics a lot this year, but Knott's had a lot of animatronics.
Yes.
That's another thing to expect that's very different than HHN. I know Orlando doesn't usually like dabbling in that type of stuff, but Knott's, I'm pretty sure every house, I might be wrong, but I think every house has at least one animatronic that's very much a like a wow moment. Some have
Yeah.
multiple animatronics, but uh, they are prevalent at Knott's, more prevalent than I've seen at any haunts, really.
Yeah, and like I said, because the mazes stick around for 5 years, that they seem to invest a lot of money and kind of, they're willing to throw some money at these mazes. They don't have to turn them around, like say Orlando has to. Where I mean, Orlando definitely puts a lot of money into the mazes, but it seems like Knott's definitely is more willing to go a little bit bigger on a few of the scenes, because they know it's going to stick around for a while.
For sure. Are there any other differences
No, I
that?
think that's the main thing. There's probably, I mean, there's a guy who literally wrote a book about the history of a Not Scary Farm,
Mhm.
um, that he was selling at the event this year. So we could go on probably for the entire show just talking about, in general things about the history of a Not Scary Farm and the types of things you're going to experience. But I think it would be more exciting for us to kind of talk about our thoughts on Not Scary Farm. So let's really just kind of hop into it. This, Jonathan, this was not your first year. This was your second year, correct?
Yeah, I started in 2021, and then I took a year off in 2022, and then this is my second year.
Yes, but this was my first year, and wow. I mean, I have been warned that this event is going to be on a different scale. Um, uh, that I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that I like it better than HH in Orlando, but it's just different, and I can't even just really explain exactly why. I think I mean, we just spent 10 minutes talking about like the literal differences of it, but it just feels different too. I don't know if even how to explain it.
I completely get what you're saying. I mean, if you are in California or have the ability to go to California and you think you are just going to do HH in Hollywood, I highly implore you to go to Knott's as well, or instead, they're both good. But definitely make sure to make time for Knott's because it is, while having similar beats to other haunts, and it is at its core a place with haunted houses and zones and scare actors, it feels like you said, it feels a lot different. It's a whole experience. It's something that just you feel in your soul. It's an amazing time, and even when things are repeated, because they are. We'll talk about a lot of the repeated things soon. There's still so much fun to go on because they're so grand and
Hmm.
have, like you said, so much money put into them because they're gonna last a couple years. So it's a fantastic event, and it has its own, as we'll talk about later, especially one specific house. it has its own history and it cares about its past, which
It
is really
does.
cool.
That is one thing I think it's yeah, it's like it's the lore is not just for the event. It's definitely wrapped into Knott's Berry Farm as well. And yeah, it's very interesting that a lot of the houses are kind of play into Knott's Berry Farm and Knott's Scary Farm as well.
Absolutely. Now, should we dive into spoilers for the event now?
Yes. So yeah. So moving forward, this is going to be a spoiler zone. There's really not a way to to talk about it without not spoiling or anything. A lot of these mazes have been, some of these mazes have a YouTube video that have been up for 4 or 5 years. So I don't think um, unless you're really you trying not to get spoiled, you may have already have seen some of this. So we are going to talk about spoilers.
Yeah, and with that said, let's just move on to the thing that, like we just said, Knott's considers it's its thing, and that is zones. It's scare zones for this year, and there's only one new one out of the five, and that is the Gauntlet. And this is
Yeah,
actually a zone that was here, like we were talking about before, that was here in the past.
yeah. This is a very I think it's a historical relevant zone. It is kind of one of the ones that has a lot of history, and was around for a very long time, and then left, and it was backed as kind of a homage to its history for the 50th year. But all the others are returning.
Now, giving our quick thoughts on the Gauntlet, you can tell this is a zone from the past, like a long time ago. I think when we were watching that documentary, this is one of the ones they said by name, the Gauntlet. So this was one from a bit ago, and I'm gonna be completely honest. I don't remember much from this zone. Unfortunately, I'm sure all the costumes were pretty good and the scares were good. Every zone had really good scares. But there weren't many sets at all, and I don't know why. I feel like this will be a zone that gets more work done to it in the future.
Yeah, it'll either get more work done to it in the future or it won't be around for long because it doesn't seem like that they, at least for this year, they really had put as much elaborate thought into this one compared to some of the others they have. I do think it has potential, but and it clearly has a lot of history. But if I hadn't known about it, I don't know if the story and the history would have was portrayed well. It was definitely supposed to be a medieval themed one, but I don't even know if I caught on to that, in what they did there.
No, I don't think I caught on until somebody pointed it out. And I guess the music was sort of leaning that direction. It it was the like we'll talk about it. It was probably the least theme scare zone out of the five. And like I said, I do think if they actually put some more sets here and something else to it, it really, like you said, it really can work. It just needs more. Right now, it feels like it's unfinished.
Yeah, and one thing I would like to point out, this is in Camp Snoopy, so it is in like the kids area of the park. So and but they do a pretty good job about making it not feel like you're in Woody Woodpecker's Kid Zone or whatever. They do a pretty good job about putting fog and mood lightings where it doesn't feel like you're walking straight through what they did in the years that they were over at Islands of Adventure, where they you were walking straight through Dr. Seuss, and it just kind of felt like you were in Dr. Seuss, just with some the lights turned down.
Oh, I completely agree with you. It's what I mean. Funny enough, once again, some like I had to look up to be like, oh yeah, this is Snoopy, because I'm still not familiar with the park layout. So I really like my brain wasn't noticing it until it was once again it was pointed out. So they did good on that front. They definitely made sure to make the lights low enough and hid things that you weren't it wasn't it was sort of guiding your attention to the other areas of the location that
Right.
weren't Snoopy,
Yeah.
which was very smart of them.
Yeah. It still needs a little bit of work, but I do think that they did a decent job, at least, not having that you're in a kid zone to be too obtrusive.
Now, I guess we'll move on to the returning scare zones. I know that Duff and Jess talked about these zones on the last Knots episode. If you listen to it, so we're probably gonna go through these relatively fast, because they're all returning. But the first one is one of my favorites. It's been one of my favorites since 2021, and that is Goring 20s. Uh, Mike, I need to hear your thoughts on this zone.
Oh man, what a fun zone. I wouldn't necessarily call it scary in any way. I think this is much more about atmosphere and interaction. But for those who are not familiar with Goring 20s, this is kind of set, this is in their kind of boardwalk area of the park, right? And it is themed around kind of like a 1920s, like, um, prohibition. Just like the way I think of it is like, when you see those pictures of like Atlantic City where prohibition was just about to end and they're having this big party to celebrate, the last night that you can drink and everyone is going crazy. That's kind of what this feels like, to me, is like this just big party on the boardwalk, celebrating the last night that they can drink.
Absolutely. And one of my favorite things about this zone, really, like one of my favorite things about this zone compared to like any other zone I've been in, like in my life, is that they have a live band on the top. On like they have a little floor up top, and they have like a live band playing every, I think, 30 minutes or an hour. I'm not sure the exact time. And they have a whole dance routine as that live band is playing, and it's just playing old music. And it is the coolest thing ever to me. I think that is so unique. It absolutely puts you right into the vibe of the setting and the location, everything like that. It is absolutely perfect. I love it. It's like Event 69 all of a sudden it started like on that stage actually had a band play the music. Like it's almost as cool as something like that. So that is an element that I really love from this zone.
Yeah, definitely. Um, I think the sliders for sure have played a huge part of this zone. I think the sliders are big into kind of all of them, but this one, I think they definitely got to, uh, showcase the sliders. We sat around and watched a lot of slider shows for sure.
Oh yeah, they were playing around, they were jumping over each other, like they were doing tricks with the sliders. Like it almost felt like, these are just these fun scare actors who got sliders like, all right, let me see what I can do with these, and just, run, go rolling around the floor with them. And it was a cool experience. It was because of how much fun they were having, that fun like flowed into me. Like I just felt their energy of like, oh my god, look what I could do. It was super cool.
Definitely, definitely. All right, let's move on to the other really big kind of historic scare zone, and that was the ghost town streets. So Jonathan talked about that documentary earlier. This is was another main focus of the documentary, is basically just kind of the history of the ghost town streets, and just how much um history is and such a big part that the ghost town streets plays into Nuts Scary Farm, and it really shows, by the characters they put in there, and the amount of interactions they allow to have people. This by far, I don't want to spoil my list, but this by far was my favorite one.
I don't want to spoil my list, but
But I'm gonna, yeah, I'm gonna spoil it.
but I'm gonna spoil my list. But I mean, it's a really amazing one to be your favorite because, like you said, you walk into this zone and we stood here for a while, actually. I think we stood here for a good amount of time. And you're just like, wow, I'm in history. Like, this is history right here. They've had this zone forever. And you're
Yeah.
standing in it. And it is absolute perfection. The way the fog, they have like nets on the top. So, like, the fog sort of like falls like where they want it
Yeah, and
to.
it just hangs and it just stay yeah.
Mhm. It hangs like so, and therefore those actors can absolutely get you out of nowhere because you can't see because there's fog there. The streets themselves, just as a setting, is absolutely perfect. It just feels like the streets were made for this, even if that wasn't true, but feels like they were. Um, and the actors there's interactions in there. Even when a lot of the actors have masks, they can and can't really talk. They can still interact with you. There are sliders here as well. It is the most uh I don't know, like it's the most not scare zone there is. And it's it's just a always a really fun time, both in 2021 and this year.
Definitely, definitely. All right, what's the next one?
Next one we're going to talk about is Carnival, and this one's near Mesmer, near that maze. And this is just a carnival, basically. It's themed to a carnival, a horror carnival with some art and stuff. And I'm not gonna lie, there aren't too many props here. What makes this zone for me are the actors. This is one of the zones. There's two zones this year that I think are really interactive, like in terms of people can really have nice conversations with you. Every zone can, but these are the two that are the biggest. Goring 20s and Carnival. Carnival that we were walking to Mesmer. Our goal, we were standing there, we're like, all right, our goal was to hit this house because we were starting to run out of time. And we got stopped by actors in like three separate conversations before we could make it to Mesmer. Like, and that was a good thing because it was fun, but that shows you how many actors are in here and how many of them just want to talk with you. I think that's super cool. They're funny, they're engaging, their costumes are really good. There's some good sliders there as well. It's just a really fun environment that makes up for its lack of sets in its incredible scare actors.
Yeah, this is definitely kind of like clowns done right. If I remember, this is a really fun carnival setting.
Yeah, I don't know if there's much else to say about it besides those those two things, carnival setting, interactive, but it's very good. It's a very good zone. And we praise about how awesome it is that Dr. Oddfellow in our opening zone, Oddfellow's Collections of Horror, is mic'd. It's like, oh wow, he can talk to us. Now at Knott's, almost every actor in this zone talks to you, and that's just something very important to me. I think that's a really cool element that at this really it's a really big haunt, incredibly big haunt. They still have that freedom to do that sort of stuff. I think that's really cool.
And I know everyone is thinking it has nothing to do with the 1998 light shooter arcade game of the same name, Carnival. It has an similar vibes, but not an IP, not an IP zone.
Oh damn, I thought it was. Oh
Yeah,
my goodness.
that would be cool. That's where they should put the guns. They should throw them
Just
in the
throw him in
carnival.
that zone.
Yeah.
Uh, and should we move on to our last scare zone, which is Forsaken Lake. Do you have any thoughts on this one, Mike?
Yeah, this one I think this one I wish I had a little bit more time to do some research because I think this one I think kind of goes into the lore a little bit of a Not Scary Farm. I get the vibe that there's definitely a story here that's being told that I didn't quite understand. But the sets are really cool. The ambiance is really cool. It definitely kind of fits into the nuts berry farm scary farm vibe, and it's just a kind of a good mood setter for sure.
Absolutely. I have about as much to say regarding the zone as you do. It's one that once again, I didn't really spend a lot of time in. we didn't really spend a lot of time in it as a team when we were there in this particular zone. I know they have sometimes they have little things that go on in here that are really cool. I didn't see any of them. There are really cool sets. They're really cool actors. Like you said, cool atmosphere. It's just one that I feel like with more time, I would get it, but because we have a limited time when we're in California, we can't go, every week, unfortunately. This is a zone that unfortunately got pushed to the back burner because we had a lot of other things to do.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those that I think if it's like on its third or fourth year and you go through it, you're like, oh yeah, I remember this one. I think it's one of those that's going to be a slow burn on you. I think you're gonna have some fun interactions in there, and you're gonna have a lot of nostalgia in there, and it's gonna it's the first time wouldn't say it kind of stood out in a very crowded scare zone lineup, but I don't that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. I just think it just kind of got lost in the shuffle here for me personally, when there's so much other stimuli in some of the others.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And now that we went over all the zones real quick, giving our overall thoughts, Mike, do you want to go over our rankings?
Let's do it.
Yeah. So what was your number 5?
My number five, and I think we alluded to it already. If you're kind of caught on to the vibe, but that is the Gauntlet. I just think that it. I know it has a lot of storied history, and I know it has a lot of nostalgia to people. But this particular iteration of it and this execution of it didn't grab me. There wasn't much here for me.
I have a feeling that our 5 through 3 are gonna be the same. Uh, just with the way we've been talking. My
Uh-huh.
number 5 is the Gauntlet as well for all the reasons that you said. I'm gonna say my 4 now because I think
Uh-huh.
it's the same as yours. My 4 is Forsaken Lake.
Yeah, it's the same. Not a bad zone. In fact, I think it's a good zone. I think, at HH in Hollywood would probably be the best zone. But I just think it just kind of gets lost in the shuffle of someone who is brand new to the event. I'm sure there's a lot of lore here that can be researched to really um, make the experience a lot more exciting. But I didn't do that before going in, so I didn't do my homework.
The documentary couldn't help us with that zone,
No,
unfortunately.
no, it did not.
Best documentary of all time. What's your number 3?
My number three is Carnival, and that one is it's interesting because I would say it's of all of the scare zones, even the Gauntlet probably is the most bare. There's not a lot of sets here, but the interactions are just so fun. You alluded to it, Jonathan. This is where they really get to like come up and interact with you and play with you, and it's just it grows on you. As someone who's not a big scary clown guy, they don't scare me, nor do they intrigue me. I had a lot of fun in this one.
I completely agree. No, my number 3 is Carnival as well. It has a lot going for it in terms of interactions, and I'm happy we got to spend as much time as we did, even if we didn't spend a lot of time in it. Because my first year, I kind of just ran through this one. I ran through every zone, so I really didn't get to spend time in any of them. This one was one of the ones where I'm really like, ooh, just being able to stand for a bit and talk with people. Really it it scratches an itch that you can't get in Orlando. Like these, I'm sure there's some haunts that I haven't experienced this year. I know Hollow Scream Orlando has a lot of actors that can talk to you. I haven't been this year, unfortunately, but uh, in Orlando, there's not many times where you can talk to people. So this was a really good zone purely for that reason. It was really good.
Definitely. All right. Do you want to do your number two? Because I think you alluded to it that it's a little bit different than mine.
This is where we switch. I
This
know
is
it is.
yeah.
I know it
Okay.
is because you literally said what your number
I
one
did.
is.
I did already. I already spoiled what my number one is. So how about you go with your number two, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, it works. My number 2, and obviously, your number 1. Ghost Town streets. Uh, you probably have a lot more to say about this zone than I do. But I mean, I absolutely loved it. It's incredible. It's classic. It's Knott's. You can only get this at Knott's. It is a place where I could literally, if I was a local, I could just sit there, and I can't really do that in a lot of zones. But I could just sit there with a snack or food or a drink or whatever, and just spend like most of my day watching this zone. It was intriguing. It was almost mesmerizing how the fog looked in the on the buildings and everything like that. It was a fantastic zone.
Yeah, definitely, definitely, and I'll talk about it now, just so we don't have to go back to it. This is my number one, and I agree with everything you said, Jonathan. I just found myself. We had very limited time there, so I didn't get to spend as much time as I wanted to. But I found myself anytime that I could potentially take the long way to go through Ghost Town to anywhere, just so I could experience this zone. I found myself doing it. Just consciously and subconsciously saying, let's take the long way to so we can really experience Ghost Town streets. It's just an iconic, amazing zone. It is. When I close my eyes and think of Not Scary Farm, I think of the Ghost Town streets and the interactions in there. It is Not Scary Farm.
And now that you did your number one, what's your number two?
Well, my number two is your number one, and is also a really amazing zone, and that is the Goring 20s. Just a fun zone, not scary, but not everything at a horror event has to be terrifying. I think you're there and to get an eclectic experience, and this is just so fun. I love the interactions that they're doing here. All this characters seem to having a lot of fun, and it just radiates. And if you can't not have fun while you're watching them, just have the time of their life in there.
This zone to me is the perfect blend of a highly detailed zone with lots of sets and the improvisation of Carnival. You put both of those together, and you got Goring 20s. In addition to a theme that I really enjoy, love the 20s. That's such a fun, place to be, and and the improvisation and the comedy aspect to it. There's so every actor has its own character, has their own character, and it's really fun. It'll be one person walking around saying, "Don't drink something." The other person like, "Here, have a sip. It's so cool." Like there's a fun atmosphere and interactivity to everything. And I already said it, but what already won this zone over for me was the band and the live dance show. That is so silly, so much fun, such a unique experience. My first year, I was at the top of the Knott's Berry ride, and I was level with this band, and I got to watch them play and watch the dance from that level, and it was a incredible experience. This is one of my favorite zones. Not only at Knott's, it's number one at Knott's, probably ever. It might be like definitely top five, maybe even top three, because it is absolutely phenomenal. I love this zone. I love silly shit. You guys know that.
Did you get to shoot a boysenberry jar at the band?
I unfortunately did not.
For those who are unfamiliar, there's a ride at Knott's Berry Farm that it's like a shooting ride, but instead of a gun, you have a boysenberry jar, and so you shoot boysenberry jam at things.
I got to
It's fun.
I got to ride that one next time. It's so cute and silly and weird. It's one of the weirdest rides I've ever been on. But
the
it
only
has
thing
a
would
charm
make it
to
better is a live band. Put a live band in there. You can shoot boysenberry jam at, and you got yourself a stew going.
Exactly. Now that we talked about the zones and we gushed about some things, unfortunately, we have to talk about something that we did experience. So we gotta cover it. At Knott's, there are a lot of shows. They have a lot of shows. So many that we chose one specific one. Because we're like, okay, there's a dance show, there's a like a carnival show, there's lots of different things, but The hanging
Yeah,
was
the
a I
hanging.
from what we knew, because we, once again, especially me and Mike, like, we don't know much about the history of
Yeah,
nuts.
and I did that a little bit on purpose, is that I didn't
Mhm.
want to over research. So, but everyone was saying, there is this old historic show that's basically their version of Bill and Ted. It's going to go through the years of, the year in pop culture and, and satire. And it's just so fun. It was left for a while, but now it's back in its 50th year. And of all of the shows that you got so many options. There's like five of them or six of them or something. If you could only see one, this year it's really got to be the hanging. And so, I I think everyone was just kind of like, okay, well, that's the show we see. We have 2 days here, but it was a whirlwind 2 days, so we picked one show to see, and it was the hanging. And
You
what
forgot the important part. It's the hanging
Oh, the
uncanceled.
hanging uncanceled, because apparently, and I didn't realize this before. I didn't realize that it was quote unquote canceled, like similar to the way that Bill and Ted Hollywood. I didn't realize that it was there were protests, but to get it to stop, or else I would have had a little bit more hesitation seeing it. I thought it was just more of like, it was a thing that we did, and then we decided to its time was done type of situation. I didn't realize that there was I don't know, controversy surrounding this show.
Here's the thing, though. I now understand why there was controversy surrounding this show,
I do too. I
because
do too.
this was, and I'm not exaggerating, like, we really try. Like, I try my best on this show to see the positives in everything, like everything, even our least favorite things, that we experience during the year. Like, oh, there's always benefits, there's always good things. This is my least favorite theme park, not even haunts, where we're expanding it to theme parks. Maybe ever. No, actually, we're expanding it again to just show in general. This is my least favorite show I've ever
Yeah. I
watched.
might have to agree with you, Jonathan. And I saw Bob Dylan's time there. The times they are changing on Broadway, which was only around for like 3 shows, and I saw a preview of it. It's historically probably one of the worst Broadway shows ever. I saw
Mhm.
that, and I think The Hanging might be worse.
Oh god.
Yeah, it was not good. And I have to preface by, you've listened to the show. I'm not an easily offended guy. I say some things that are, a bit tongue in cheek. I say some things that, I mean well. My heart is in the right place, but I've pushed some boundaries here or there when it comes to my jokes. Um, but the hanging is, first of all, I think it wasn't funny. That was my main thing that I was mad about. Not only, like, you can be edgy, but at least be funny. It
They
was,
weren't even
and
funny.
it wasn't even really edgy. It was just kind of dumb. It was just kind of like inappropriate and dumb, and which is way different than being edgy. Yeah, it was also, I feel like it was like maybe a accumulation of, like, it was kind of like written over the course of the last couple of years. So it wasn't very timely necessarily either. There was a few things that were timely about it, but they felt like afterthoughts. They're like, oh, Paul Rubens died. We have to do a Pee Wee Herman joke. But it was just thrown in there just to be. It had no real rhyme or reason, and none of it was really funny. There was definitely things that were offensive to meant to be offensive. It was political to be political. It just wasn't good, dude. And I don't know what else to say. I'm sure, I know that you agree. I wish Duff and Jess were here, because they have more strong opinions than I think both of even we do. I think if you really wanted to have like to hear, I think both Duff and Jess have way stronger opinions on it than, at least, than me. But yeah, it wasn't good. It was not fun.
It literally, like you said, it literally opened with Pee Wee Herman, and I'm like, "All right, I hate this already. All right, like, I
Yeah.
guess they wanted to prove to the audience how fucking edgy they were. Look, we just there's a guy who died. Look at we're have him on the stage now." I'm like, Okay, I don't like this." And then like I think the second big joke was just a giant COVID monster. I'm like, what the
Yeah,
fuck is
it
this?
it
Like,
was a COVID virus, but it did like did like a cha cha. It's like, oh, it is COVID, a COVID virus, and it was just like, it was like written for like, it was like, had to be written by like a 65-year-old dude who just like is like, oh, I know what the kids like today. They want a Coca Cabana reference. Um, no, the
I can't.
kids don't want Coca Cabana reference. No, they don't.
it was it was literally the worst thing like I could ever imagine watching. I cannot believe it was written. Like I think their goal writing it, like you said, the age thing, and just the guy going, "I'm gonna offend everybody," but also complain that they can't do anything the entire show too. So it's like I'm gonna offend people, but then yell how I can't offend people during the show as I'm offending people, like at the same time. It it wasn't there was no jokes that landed. Like, okay, there was one theme park specific joke about like not security that was kind of funny
Yeah,
because Knott's like doesn't allow certain size bags, and they kind of made fun of that.
yeah, and I wanted to give a shout out to him, and mostly because he was doing kind of like a David Putty type of impression that was pretty good. So if you like that, if you like Kronk from um, uh, Emperor's New Groove, I think you might find that moment a little bit funny because his impression of that. I mean, and he wasn't directly doing that, but that was kind of the vibe that I got that he was doing, a Kronk. That he was decent of it, and honestly, I think he probably had the most charisma of anyone on that stage. Was the security guard guy?
and like there were how the show had so many problems. The show
Yeah,
had tons, but at the
it
end,
did.
it's like, all right, who the whole because the whole purpose of the show, um, as the title implies, is that they got to find somebody to hang.
Yeah,
Like
and it's
that's the
just,
whole thing.
yeah, and the idea is like the biggest offender of the year in pop culture. So like, I think in the years past they've hung like Justin Bieber and probably like people like, you know, just like people who have a big pop culture reference of the year. So they hang them. So this year, there was a few like um like
There
free
were a few fake outs.
fake outs. That was the word I was looking for. Yeah, a few like fake outs where you thought they were going to hang Elon Musk, like he was going to be the one, which makes sense because he is, I think, has the most crazy stuff going on right now. You think they're going to hang Elon Musk, but no, they decided not to hang Elon Musk. Instead, the real villains of the show were Karens, but not just any type of Karen, the ever prevalent, very common, the woke Karen.
I cannot
The
believe
woke Karen.
I can like I cannot believe they used like that word in the show, and it really seemed like the writers really believed in it. Like they really like the writers like, yeah, you know who's the real offenders of like society? Woke Karens. Like who's writing this shit? Like this is terrible. Like, oh god. This show was absolute ass. There's like the one not security joke that was funny. Uh, like if the whole show was just that, like just making fun of knots and theme
Yeah, like
parks.
self-deprecation, I think is always has a sincerity about it, right? It's,
Oh
if you
yeah,
poke fun at yourself, it's okay, right?
yeah, but not this. Not what the hell they're doing. Fucking COVID monsters and shit like that. Like no, let's not do that. It's frankly ridiculous to have at a theme park event, regardless of how edgy you give on the warning signs or whatever the fuck. Like
Yeah.
it's not good.
And there was like some like underlying misogyny in it, and I don't know, it just wasn't good. It was a very enough. Unless we can move on.
We
We've
can.
we've ranted about
We
how
can shit
bad.
on the hanging the entire episode, but I think we got our point across about why it's terrible. If you are planning to go to Knott's to watch it, don't. Not worth even seeing. Um
Yeah,
and
I hear the dance show is really good. I definitely regret not seeing that. I hear like that one, and apparently that one is controversial over there because it is a bit too sexy for Orange County, California.
why are
Uh,
people focusing on the wrong thing? They need to be focusing on the fucking hanging and how it's terrible.
because the hanging is written for that audience, bro. Like, I think that's the type of people who go to not scary farm. Unfortunately, I think it's the area of California that park is built in. I think they're more upset about sexy dancers than they are misogyny.
It's
Unfortunately,
so ridiculous, man. I can't. Uh Okay, let's move on from this terrible show and talk about the great things. I mean, we already talked about the great things, which were the zones, but there's more great things to talk about at Knott's. Um, and that's the mazes, not houses, mazes.
mazes. They're called mazes over there for sure.
And there are 3 new ones and a couple returning ones, with 2 being their final year. So we're just gonna start off with the new ones. Uh, and starting off with the one that is the history house of this year, the Chilling Chambers. Mike, what do you think of this house?
As someone who didn't know anything about Not Scary Farm and its history at all and was going in blind, I loved this house, man. It was so fun. Had all these really big kind of elaborate scenes. I feel like they probably like took out the the most exciting, fun, memorable scenes from like the last you know 20,
Mm-hmm.
25 years of. I don't know how far back they went in some of these, but you definitely could tell that they are like, okay, what are some of these favorite moments of Not Scary Farm? Let's put it in here, and it showed. It really did. I loved it. I really liked this house.
Oh my god, yeah. I mean, I completely agree with you. Which is funny. We're gonna keep having a common theme of like, yeah, you're right, because it's just shit was awesome. Because it was. I going in this house, damn it, going in this maze, made me sad that I wasn't there for past notch years.
Same, same,
Because I'm
man.
like, my god, there's so many fun ideas here that I wish I got to see as a full house. There was just rooms that I'm like, holy shit. And they were big rooms too. They didn't like cut it really, they didn't cut the room short. Every section got its appropriate time. I have not gone through any of these, but I'm sure that fans of previous houses or mazes went into these rooms and went, "Oh my god." Like I'm back. They gave my house, my I'm oh my god. They gave my maze the time it deserved, and I think that's awesome. And overall, I just love the way they framed it. I think if you're going to do a history house, if you're going to do a say let's celebrate the past, this is exactly how you do it. You have a host, which yeah, it was kind of sad that he was only on screens, but I also get it because they really want to make sure every host is the same, not a
Uh-huh.
different actor. So I get it, but whatever. But you have the host introducing you almost like the Crypt Keeper, kind of like that. And he's taking you through every one of these mazes. And every time you go to another maze, there's like a key that transports you, has a little light, goes, and you teleport to that particular location. And it's so cool. This is how you do an anniversary house. I've only seen one, really. I guess two, technically. I've seen Icons. I guess you can call that anniversary, and Scary. Uh, this is my favorite anniversary house. And it's at an event that I've only been 2 years of. So that's saying something.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. All right. Should we move on to the next new one?
Oh my god, I'm gonna take this. I gotta take it, right?
All right, yeah, you take this one. I also have strong opinions to say about this one. Oh, and I also want to say that honestly, I'm gonna just straight out and say it. I personally, I mean, and not everyone on the I think the show agrees, but I personally didn't think there was a bad house this year. I think there is one that I think is worse than all the others, but for the most part, I really enjoyed all of these. Um, I really was just digging my time, and that's a scary farm. But yeah, go ahead and take the next one.
Looking back at the rankings real quick and all the houses, and I actually did a quick recap. I completely agree with you. We'll get there, but I completely agree with you. There was no house that was bad at all, not in the slightest. Um, but yeah, another house that is an extension of the Goring 20s scare zone. It's in the same universe that actually explains some things. That's Room 13. Basically, the easiest way I can explain it, it's the Spirits of the Coven Knots version. Except there's no witches. It's kind of just, oh, everyone's drinking this elixir and it's making them go crazy. And what's going on, what's happening, and they try to uncover the mystery, and then the mystery is solved, and it's a big face. But
Yeah,
uh,
and it ties in directly with the Goring 20s.
oh
So it
yes,
is it's essentially a maze that is was designed around the popular Goring 20s scare zone. So it came after the scare zone because the scare zone it was first year was last year I believe and was just insanely popular.
which makes me really happy because that tells me that Goring 20s is not going away anytime soon. At least not until this house is done or this maze is done. But like, I'm gonna be honest about this maze. My first, I think the runs on the first day, I was kind of like, all right, it's fine. There was a lot of repetitiveness. There was the music is kind of the same. There were a lot of things that were just all right, it's all right, I guess. And then I realized we didn't see the house how it was supposed to be seen, because the next time we went, there were a billion actors in this house. I don't know what the fuck happened, but there were a billion, and every one of them scared the shit out of me. And
Yeah.
it was the scariest house that night. I was running out of the house. It was really bad. Like I died in there. I don't know what the shift. I mean, the shift was obvious. It just threw more actors in it. But all of a sudden, when there were a bunch of actors in there and they're all playing a part, I was like, okay, this house works now. I knew something was off that first day we went through it. The second day, I'm like, this is how the house is supposed to be taken in and experienced. And now I'm fully on board with this one. But do you have any thoughts, Mike?
Yeah, I really liked this house. I think it would be a disservice to not mention that the two people that liked this house are on the show this time, and the two that didn't necessarily care for it as much as we did couldn't make it. So I think I should say that there was some mixed reactions to this house, but
Mm-hmm.
I love this house. I thought that they had a really fun theme. I think in that theme goes through this house so strongly. I think it really did what Spirits of the Coven I think was trying to do, where it was just like slow build into something scary and huge at the end. They did this right here. I think there was this soundtrack that I think really got under the skin of people so much that I think a lot of our co-host thought it was annoying. I just thought it was annoying, but it was more sinister and just jarring than anything. It was just like these
Mm-hmm.
two notes that just like started off slow and they just got louder and louder and louder, and it just more distorted as you went. And I think it just really was off-putting, but in a fun way. I think the some of the special effects here are things that I've never seen done in a maze before. I thought it had some really big special effects moments that were fun. I think it told the story really well. um I think Jess would be upset if we didn't mention that the masks and the makeup was lacking a little bit, and I agree with her on that. I think that there was I wish they had probably, instead of putting these masks on them, that they had took the time to do a little bit more of elaborate makeup work on them. For sure, I think that would have added, but that gives them something to work on moving forward. But I personally really liked the vibe and story and execution of Room 13.
The last thing I gotta say is that this, like you were talking about special effects. Can we talk about that room where you're walking on the side of a skyscraper, walking
Yes,
the side of a
yeah, that was what
building?
I was alluding to. Yeah, is and yeah, there's a room where it makes you feel like you're kind of on the rafters of this big skyscraper. And it really does feel like you're kind of on the scaffolding, paint scaffolding of these skyscraper. It's really cool.
So fucking cool. This is, so far we talked about two really really good mazes.
Yeah,
Now we're on to something that I know almost everyone agrees is not only just really really good, but fucking spectacular.
yeah, this
Um,
is another level. I don't even know how to describe it. Go ahead. Yeah, this is just another level house, and uh, it's insane that they were able to do that, because all of their houses are good, but this is just another level, man.
uh, let's get right to it, and it's I'd say like it isn't the newest house. They're all new. But if I don't know, it has this was the most anticipated new house coming this year, and that is Cinema Slasher. Mike, you obviously have very strong opinions about this one. What do you think?
Yeah, so this one, well, the premise is very similar to Slaughter Cinema, but the difference, I think, is that Slaughter Cinema had like kind of a drive-through aesthetic. This was more like um, more classic movie theater aesthetic, like and you were in each scene you actually walked through a movie theater, like like movie, like a theater.
Hmm.
And you started off in like the lobby, which was really cool, and then you went in and into the actual theater, and you got to see the movie playing, and then you almost went through the screen and got into the movie. And it was just so well done. Each time, and each movie, the just got more and more intense, and the effects got cooler. And then they did this really cool thing where it's like, not only each time you went through, the theater just got more and more destroyed. So it was just
Hmm.
like the outside, the actual movie theater was just in by the time you went through the last movie, was just in a completely disarray, like almost like a nuke was dropped on it. It was really cool.
And I mean, I completely agree with you. And I think one of the also the biggest differences between Slaughter and this is that this one, it's called Cinema Slasher. They are very much parodying very famous slashers.
Yes,
Um, the first one you have Michael Myers, second one you have Jason, and the third one you have Leatherface. I appreciate Leatherface. But
yes,
they're very much their own interpretations, subtle nods to famous slasher movies, which is really cool.
definitely. And they take you to these kind of these iconic places, where I think the first one is a sorority house, the second one was like a camp setting, right? Or
Mhm.
like a lake. And what was the third one? I can't
Third one
remember.
was I think was a slaughterhouse.
Oh yes, it was like a slaughterhouse. And that was the one that had some really big scenes.
I'd say the most impactful scene for me was just that scare actor with the big ass chainsaw.
Uh-huh.
Just you can move it all around the room, and it was humongous. It was the biggest chainsaw you have ever seen, and he can move it like very easily around the room, like very fluidly, because it was connected to all these wires and stuff, and there were lasers under you. Like it was so cool.
It
That
was
was
cool.
such an amazing scene.
Yeah, I'm not gonna forget that moment we first walked into that room and we just saw the man with the chainsaw that was like 10 feet tall. It was a huge ass chainsaw, and he was. I think it was some forced perspective stuff, because it made it feel bigger. That he was like on this platform above you, and then he had this giant chainsaw that made it look even bigger. I'm sure it wasn't 10 feet tall, but it felt like it was because he was on the platform. It was huge.
Absolutely. I don't know what else I have to say about this maze, besides that it was fantastic. It was really, really, really good. And I'm sure we're going to talk about it more when we get to our rankings.
Definitely. All
And
right. Yeah. So
yeah, no,
those are the three new ones. Let's do the ones that are returning, but let's go to the ones that are their final year. So they're being retired this year.
it's sad. Actually, the first one is not too sad. Um, and that is dark. Funny enough, these two mazes are right next to each other too. But the first one's Dark Entities, and this is one that has been at Knott's for a while. Both of these have. This one has been notorious for being one that's less like compared to the others. However, I don't think it's that bad, at least this iteration of it. My first year, I was really down on it, but this year I was like, okay, you know what? I like a lot of the elements that they're doing. I'm thinking it's working right now. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because it's his final year and they're putting a little more energy into it. But I definitely enjoyed my time in it. I couldn't say that for my run in 2021. So
Yeah.
that is definitely a positive. Mike, this was your first time going through it and your last.
Very first and
So
last. Yeah.
what'd you think?
I definitely didn't stand out to me as much as the others, but that's not necessarily to say that I hated it. I think that it just kind of, and I actually did get to do quite a few runs of this because it was never busy either night we went, so we really got to marathon these. Even the second night, I feel like was slower than the first, and we didn't have
Mhm.
any sort of freight lane, fast pass, express pass situation that night. The first night we did, but the second one we didn't, and uh, Jonathan, you and I were able to, hit these again and do them again while everyone else was at the book signing. So we really got to experience this one. I wouldn't say it was bad to me. I just think it lacked some of the um, fun that some of the others had. I don't think there was any real fun moment that jumped out to me. I think I think a big part of a Knott's Maze is that they just really have some really fun. They have a lot of fun moments, scary moments, but this one just was lacking the fun element for me. And it just because of that, it really didn't necessarily jump out to me. And there was also a few like odd moments that I'm a little perplexed by, like they had a lot of vibrating floor type of scares where it just didn't quite work for me. Where they would have you kind of walk up a ramp and then the floor would kind of vibrate under you, but it didn't really do much for me other than just annoy me.
I think that was supposed to be teleporting. Like,
Was it?
yeah, I think you were on one base and then you teleported to outer space.
But they didn't even do any. They didn't do like anything else to make it feel like that.
No, there was just like a laser, but they didn't really do much else. They could have had fog or something. They didn't
Fog
really.
or a sound effect, be like teleporting now to like, there just wasn't much going on.
I will say my favorite moment in the house was when there was a robot, they had a patient. It was like a medical robot, had a patient under it. That was just organs were everywhere. It was flying around. There was no saving this person. That person was dead. Like, there's nothing to do. And it's just playing around in the guts and the everything going, I will save this patient. I will save this patient. Like, no, you're not. There's no saving that patient, medical robot. Uh, that was the one funny moment that house had for me.
See, I don't even remember that. I feel like if that was pointed out to me, I may have liked it a little bit more. I don't remember the medical robot trying to save people.
that's but yeah, that's the only fun moment that I remember from that house. And it's a moment that honestly like gives it a leg up that you'll see a little bit later. But I like that moment a bit. But
Uh,
yeah,
all
should we
right,
move on to the
what's the second one that's being retired?
second one is the depths. And once again, Mike, your first and last time seeing the depths, what did you think?
I really liked this one. This one was so fun. I think this one is kind of themed around like the kind of the ocean, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it just was so fun. I remember some really big scenes at the end with a giant octopus that it's like there, and there was a scene where you're kind of like they put in just pump a room just full of fog that's supposed to make it feel like you're kind of like on like a really foggy lake, and then they have this characters kind of hide in the fog while you're kind of winding through. It just was really cool. There were some just things in there that I've never seen attempted before in a haunted house, and I loved it.
It's absolutely phenomenal. I'm sad this one is going away. I get it. There are parts that are showing its age a bit, but I do think there's probably better options on this list to go than the devs. But it is what it is. I mean, there are the mirror effects they have in that to make it feel like things are going, like all the way down or all like just going on forever. Really cool. And of course, I mean, that finale makes the house. It makes the house. The minute you see that huge, humongous kraken type creature rocking a boat that rocks you, like it. That's it. Like that's all you needed to make this maze good. It is a great one. I'm gonna really miss it. I don't think it hit as hard as it did in 2021 for me, but it still was very good. And I can't wait to see what these two mazes become because once again, they're literally right next to each other, so they could do something fun and connect them. We'll see.
Definitely. All right. So moving on to let's stick kind of to this area because both of these were kind of in the same area of the park. But let's move on to the next one that is sticking around, and that is Bloodline 1842. Um, this is the one when I was talking about earlier about the one that previously had like an interactive shooting element where you were handed like an interactive gun, very similar to a like villain con, and then you went through the house and shot people like wearing like vests, like almost like a one-sided laser tag type of experience. This year they took away the gun element, but from what I understand, the house stayed pretty similar. um I think I have a different opinion than you, Jonathan, on this one. But I will let you go first on what you thought of it.
I appreciate that. I will say that so far everything I went to Dark Entities and I went to the depths. Obviously, the three new mazes I didn't go through before. Bloodline is one I didn't get to experience until this year because I missed 2022. So this one was also new for me, and like you said, you can tell there was an element there that was not there, and I think that was the worst part of it. I know people didn't like the guns, and I don't know how I would have felt if I had the guns or not. Um, it felt like it would have helped though, because there's so many sections that are open that I feel like if you were holding a laser tag gun and running around with it, all of a sudden it becomes a lot of fun. But
Yeah.
there were split paths in this house that you can go one way or another way, and without the laser tag, I was in the front one time. I didn't know where to go. Like I was confused about which way was real, which was a boo hole. I almost walked into a bowl like nope, other way. I'm like I don't know. Like you know. So I wish the element was there, and I think the beginning of the maze is very much, oh, this is where you pick up your gun. And so there's not many sets, and it's kind of just a lot of TVs. You're like, all right, I just got to get through this. But once you get to the actual meat of the maze where I think it was supposed to begin, then it starts getting good. Then you got really good sets and a cool atmosphere, really cool actors that are interacting with you. Huge sets, actually. They go
Oh,
really big.
these arguably might be some of the biggest sets of the event, even bigger than Cinema Slasher. There, some of these scenes are really big.
Oh, absolutely. And there's things that happen above you, which I thought like were some of the best moments. The bungees that just go, they
Yes.
fly over you and try to grab at you from behind. There's stilt walkers. There are scenes that unfortunately are really timing dependent, because there are some runs where we got them and some runs where when they don't happen, it just, the scene becomes like, what is this? But when they do happen, there's really intense scenes with vampires fighting humans, and it's a battle, and it's super cool to watch. So this house, while I know a lot of us have very low or at the bottom on our list, depending, um is not as bad as I thought it was my first time going through. It took me a couple times. I'm like, okay, I'm getting this now. Like, this isn't bad, actually. I'm having a good time. There are just some elements that I think could be tweaked for the future.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest with you. I liked this house. I definitely agree with you on a lot of the things that you said, though. It definitely feels like a video game, and so I think the aesthetic is like a very steampunk aesthetic, which I think has worn out its welcome on a lot of people. But I personally really like this aesthetic. I'm on the record that Saws and Steam is my favorite house, so I really like that industrial feel of and it really did do, if it did anything well, and I'm sure it did better when you had the gun, it really felt like you were walking through a video game. They worked really hard on, I think, having that feel where a lot of the um, a lot of the characters were like good guys and bad guys, and there was like NPCs where they were there, literally there just to be like, this way, this way, this way. They were like, and there was like Jonathan, you allude to it, like bungee scares of where that were just the first time I saw them, I'm like, holy crap, this is just really cool. I liked this one. I think, obviously, I think the gun, I think you're right. I think the gun would have added a little bit more to it. I think it definitely felt like it was a really high concept, or like strong concept, where someone was like, you know what, we're gonna make it like you're walking through this steampunk first person shooter, and then for whatever reason that the guns didn't work, or the guns didn't like them, or they were broken or hard to maintain, there was, for whatever reason, decided to take away a big element that the house was designed about, and then, but that being said, what was left there was still strong enough for me to not be at the bottom, like I think many of the other co-hosts have it, and near the bottom. Mine's a little bit higher, just because of how strong I think the stuff that was still there, as well as me just really enjoying this aesthetic.
I love that. And we got to do this one once again a lot of times, because like there was even a section of that, like you said, that we branched off, like, oh, we'll hit maybe one house, like the line, that's pretty short. No, we hit all four instantly, no waits. Like, it would just walk on. We leave a house and it'd be faster to get into another house and walk to the exit. Like, it was kind of crazy. But yeah, now that we're done talking about Bloodline, we have one more house in this area, one more maze in this area. Someone can say how many times I said how. We said house instead of maze.
No pressure,
Um,
Jonathan, but if you say it one more time, you're off the show for good.
damn it.
I'm just kidding. No pressure.
um,
No pressure.
we're gonna get into a maze that I just think is fucking spectacular, absolutely spectacular. I don't know if it's just me, because I like this aesthetic a lot, but that's Waxworks.
Oh yeah.
And this was, if I remember correctly, this was the first one we did of the yeah, this was the first one we did when we got there. And I'm so happy it was, because this was amazing. I mean, I've done it before, so I knew, but I haven't done it in a little bit, so I had a little foggy memory. And just the sets, it has some good comedy, really good effects. It's gross. Not many houses can gross me out. This one is gross. It has humongous scenes at some points, and then really tight scenes that really work. The story is very clear to follow, has a great ending, um, and it's just a vibe that I like. I don't know why. I think that, getting covered in wax, a hot burning wax, is fucking terrifying, and not a lot of houses can scare me, but sometimes their concepts can. Okay, I get jump scared, but in terms of like deep scares, this one scares me on a deep level. I don't like the idea of getting covered in hot wax. Don't like it. Like like that's
Yeah.
too real for me. Disgusting. This house hits that. I love it. It has a great facade, a great little pre-show video, and I don't know what else to say besides it's fucking good.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. This one I think was one of the first ones we went through. And I was like, oh man, this is what, when people talk about knots, this is what they're talking about. Um, it's just the storytelling is so strong. The scale in some of the rooms are so big. It's scary. It's dark. It's gross. It just has so much good stuff going for it.
Absolutely. I can't wait for you to find out where this is on my rankings. I can't wait to find out where this is on your rankings. To
Yeah.
see where it ends up.
Yeah, we'll get there soon. All right, what? Let's move on to the other sections of the park. We only have three more. It looks like.
Mhm.
Um, let's talk about the grimoire.
The grimoire.
Yeah, everyone likes to say the grimoire in a very silly, different. Like everyone has a different pronunciation of grimoire. Um, but yeah, it's definitely the funnest one to say.
it 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 has that going for it. Absolutely. The
Grimoire.
funnest one to say.
It
Uh,
is.
it's gonna be a word. Mike, this
Yes.
I knew a bit about going into this one, so there weren't as many what the fuck moments, but you knew nothing. So
I
I
knew
need to
nothing.
hear your thoughts about your first run through the grimoire.
I mean, I caught on eventually what was going on, but at the first time, I was fucking baffled. I was confused. I had no clue. I realized now we were time traveling, and that the book is taking us from place to place. But we like started off in a campground, and they find this book, and then all of a sudden we're in like the trenches of World War I. And then all of a sudden we're in some other setting, like we're in like a 50s diner or some shit. Um, I was very confused at first. I realized that we're kind of going through, like, this book is like telling the story of this. I still don't quite understand the grimoire, so I don't think I'm the one to really tell the lore of this, because I'm probably going to get it totally wrong. But I definitely caught on that the grimoire has some sort of strong power that powers Not Scary Farm, right? Like it is the force behind Not Scary Farm is this book, right?
I guess I kind of think they're retconning that too. I feel like this book was supposed to be super important, and now they're kind of just letting it go because the house didn't really work as well as they wanted it to. I'm I'm not like, I think it's supposed to tie into everything, but also I don't know if they're gonna continue going with that, to be honest. I think that was his original intention.
Was the original intention would be like this is the book that, like, that, this evil force that ultimately you know gives all of the characters their power or something,
I'm
right?
gonna be honest. I think you're on the right track. I don't know.
It could be totally wrong. Like
We
it
could be
could we
totally
could be
wrong, and then
totally
people would be like, "Oh my god, you're
and I
wrong." I
probably
don't
are.
know. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
the nuts enthusiasts are going to be sharpening their pitchforks and coming after us right now.
um. So Yeah, this house was this maze. Damn it, I'm off the show. No, this maze was
Pack your
I'm
bags.
I'm
You out. You're done.
get out of your own dorm room. Oh, okay. Um but so this maze was new to me too. I didn't get to go to in 2022, so this was a new one for me as well. And I was also very confused. I knew what was going on, but I still was like, "What the fuck?" But then going through it again, having a base understanding of what was happening, I'm like, "Oh, okay. These sets are really cool. There's lots of cool effects. There's some good scares. I think it was lacking in scare actors the runs we went. I don't know what happened. I just feel like there weren't a lot of actors in our runs. But I like the concept and uh, the effects were cool. It had a great vibe. Like it was the vibe house. It was the house where you turn your mind off. Like, oh, cool. It's this little. I'm time traveling back to the future. Stuff like that, and try to pretend that just the story goes doesn't really matter. That's what this house felt like to me. And when I did that, it was fun. So yeah. There's not much more to say. This had a pre-show. I could say, like you said, it has a pre-show. But like I want to reiterate, like that shit's cool. I love when how mazes have a pre-show,
Yeah.
and it was really cool. And the fact that like the entrance to where you need to go is sort of hidden behind a tent, so it really feels like you're time traveling. Like you really don't know where to go until some scare actor opens the door up for you. Like, oh shit, it's through there. So that was cool. It's not at the level of like Paranormal Inc., but it's still a fun little thing they did. But yeah, I don't have much else to say. It's the Grimoire.
Yeah, I definitely not my least favorite, definitely not my most favorite. I think that it had some cool special effects. I do think the story doesn't necessarily translate very well, necessarily, other than it's going to take you to some cool, like iconic locales where you're in a war scene, and then you're in like a 50s home that's all done like monochrome, black and white, and then you're back into the campgrounds, and then there's a bunch of scary things in the woods. It definitely has some really cool elements to it, but I do think it lacks some of the story that, say, something like a Waxworks has.
Love that the exit had a bunch of 80s songs that they didn't pay the rights for. They just kind of like, yeah, we're playing it.
Yeah, they just I feel like they can kind of get away with stuff like that.
They can. We were
Unlike
walking around and I'm
Universal, where
like,
it's like a giant company that's going to get sued out of the wazoo if they have Eddie Munson pick up a guitar. They get away with probably much more than something like Universal can get away with.
oh, I'm sure. I will say there was a funny moment. We were walking around the park and what was it? Like I was walking around, I'm like, is that the Shining music just playing in the park loop? Like apparently it was. Which is
Yeah,
like, all right, that's the part of the park loop, I guess. But
and didn't they have like Beetlejuice and stuff playing too at one point?
probably I would assume so.
Yeah.
Fucking weird. But hey, it's whatever. But now we're gonna move on to another
Oh yeah, I'll let you talk about this one because I know you like this one, or
I
at
have
least
strong
yeah,
opinions.
you
And
do have strong opinions.
listen, I love Knott's mazes. I'm gonna get very negative for a minute, but I need you to know that I don't hate this maze. I just have a particular part that I'm very passionate about.
Okay, okay. Oh,
So,
you got your soapbox. So go ahead.
I thank you. So, Mesmer, when I went in 2021, and it was the original year, was his debut year, it started off, you go into the tent, and there's a whole hypnotism show happening. And there's this story, there's a hypnotist doing his thing, and there's a subject, there's a lady who's like going up into the sky, she's floating, and it's a cool thing, and it like it introduces that like not only he's hypnotizing this person, he's hypnotizing you, and he's basically giving his purpose. Like he wants to like make you something else, like take you to a reality of I don't know, evil. I don't fucking know. But like that's sort of the basis. And it was a really cool way to introduce the house. It was a great pre-show, like the Grimoire, except a lot better. It was great. This time when you walk in, The stage is destroyed on purpose. Everything's destroyed, and the hypnotist is there, but he's like, "Yeah, just go through the next door." I'm like, "What the fuck? Why did they take this away?" Like, I get ops, it might have been a living hell, and that's probably why they did it. In the end, it is what it is. But it was such an important piece to the story. So important, like, to this entire house. It definitely set up everything. And instead, he just walk right in, and it's like, "All right, well, the house started. Get ready." Um, and the maze is good. There's effects and there's scare actors and it's trippy, and the maze is not bad. It's really well done, as the most effects than any of the Knott's mazes. But like, that intro was so crucial, and they just got rid of it, and it hurt this maze tremendously for me. Even if overall I still like it, it's just, damn, it was on another level before, and it not anymore.
Yeah, it looks like it was only around for that first year because I just, while you were talking, was watching a walkthrough from 2022, and it did not have the hypnotism show.
Oh
It
wow.
just, yeah, it just had the destroyed stage and the hypnotist ushering you into the next room. Yeah, it did not do the whole hypnotizing of the doll girl or whatever.
Yeah, it's such a shame. I get it. It probably did mess up the flow, but what were your thoughts? Because this is your first experience with Mesmer.
I think that I liked it, but I do think this one also kind of got a little bit lost on me. I don't think I did it as much. I think there was one time where you guys rushed to go do this, and I really wanted to do the boysenberry jar ride, which was probably a mistake. Um, but I just kind of wanted to experience it. Um, but I don't remember too much about it. I think there were some cool moments. I think visually it was really cool. I think the cool eye tunnel was cool. I don't know. There's some cool elements, but I think overall, it wouldn't be near the top of my list.
Makes a lot of sense. And now we're on our last one.
Yeah, we are on our last one, and that the last one is Origins: The Curse of Calico.
So, what were your thoughts, Mike? Because I no, this wasn't a new one, but I remember really enjoying this in 2021, and I also really enjoyed it this year. But this is your first experience with it.
Yeah, this one is definitely a really strong story-driven house, I think, and I think the story goes through really well. I think it's to me maybe not the most memorable of all of the mazes that I went through the last couple of days, but I do think it had some really cool moments as well. I think the you definitely get introduced to some important iconic characters that you're going to see. I think it's the definitely has the ghost town streets aesthetic strongly, which is just kind of the not scary farm aesthetic that I think so that I think has really going for it is that it's of if you just had to embody a house that really fits not scary farm, I think it would be um, um, Origins Curse of Calico because it just kind of feels right. It just feels like it could stay forever just because it just fits right into the ghost town streets so well. I think there is a big some good big show-stopping scenes like most knots maze have. I think you get introduced to the grimoire in here, right? I think um, and you get a kind of introduced to one of the few. I know Knott's has a lot of different like icons, so to speak, but I think you also get introduced to one in this maze as well. So I thought it was fun.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the setup, this maze, I mean, it was Mesmer, but now not anymore. This maze has the best setup, I think, of all of them this year, because not only do you have that first scene, which is so cool, you're starting right at the beginning, right at the trial. You are in the middle of the trial. There is no scaring there. It is just look at this trial. You know, you were in it, you were in that time. But before that, you have even another person talking to you and talking about oh, should she be hanged, this and that, and like talking about um all that type of stuff, sort of getting you riled up for the experience, putting you in that time and that location they want you to be in. And that's really fun. It's also a great way to like pass the time in the line as well. But yeah, that's really fun. And yeah, like you said, some of the best elements in here were the aspects of Ghost Town, because they literally recreate the Ghost Town streets, or at least a little part of it, in this massive scene. And there's like a whole shootout going on in the Ghost Town streets. Like it makes it feel alive. You're looking at that, you're like, this is so fucking cool. Then you get scared because somebody scares you. Like, God damn it, let me look at this. This is amazing.
Right.
And at the end, you got this awesome bungee that reminds me a little bit
Oh,
of the intro to Scary Tales, Deadly Ever
yeah.
After, um, with
Where
the
she
witch going
flies.
around the
Yeah.
castle.
Yeah.
It was very much that vibe, except it was the ending, and she was going around and doing magic and putting a curse on Scary Farm, which is like, oh, that shit's cool, you know?
Definitely. Definitely really cool. All
Uh,
right. I think that is the 10. So let's just hop right into the maze rankings. And then, yeah, we'll go from there. So, do we want to, let's start at the bottom, obviously. Do you want to go first with what your 10 is?
I will, and I'm going to tell you what, it's not the same as yours.
It's not?
I think our list is, I don't think it is. And I think our lists are going to be very different to a point.
Okay. Okay. What is your number 10 then?
Bloodline
Oh, yeah,
1842.
it's not mine. No.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I don't think Bloodline, like I said before, it's not bad. It's actually pretty good. Just out of the mazes this year, it was my least favorite, but that doesn't mean it was bad. I actually had a pretty good time in it after I got used to the no guns thing. Then I was like, okay, now I get what this is, and I'm having fun.
Yeah. My number 10, and I'm going to rapid fire this because I mostly have already said what I want to say about these, is Dark Entities. I think there was a few moments, but it's of all the things to do and see and experience at Not Scary Farm, this was a little bit lost in the shuffle for me.
Yeah,
And it's
that's
not to
very
say it's
fair.
bad. It's because like I said, I think all of them are good. They all have redeeming qualities. I just think it just doesn't quite, it didn't stand out to me.
Makes sense. And my number 9 is also Dark Entities. Great maze. I really enjoy it. That one, like the thing I was talking about before about like, oh, this bumped it up. That one scene with the robot trying to save the patient that was dead moved it from 10 to 9 because I just love that fucking scene so much. It's so silly, it's so stupid. And it's me that, and I feel like I got some good scares in here, and it felt elevated compared to the year that I first started going the knots. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was the actors or the way they set up the maze, or I don't know, but I liked it a lot better. And I said, you know what? You improved. You're leaving this year. You get to 9. That's how we'll end it. Like that's your, I don't know, that's your going away gift. You get to be 9 instead of 10.
All right. Well, my number 9, and I think this one might be a bit controversial because I've talked to a couple of people who have this as their favorite. And I believe, Jonathan, at least one point, this was your favorite
Oh shit.
going into it. But that is Mesmer. Number 9
Mm,
is Mesmer. I just think there's just, for me, it was just kind of, at least the way that this iteration was, and only getting to run it, I believe, twice compared to some of the others I did 4 or 5 times over the course of the 2 days. It doesn't quite stand out to me. I think that also, I think Oddfellow this year just had much more uniqueness to it. Whereas I think Mesmer might be a little bit more grand, but I think Oddfellow with does it better, and it's similar aesthetics for sure.
you know what? I have my 8 as something, but I think you're right, and I think I'm gonna switch it. I think I'm gonna make my 8. I know it's your 9, but I'm gonna make my 8 Mesmer.
Oh wow! And I
Yeah.
wasn't wrong, right? This going, I think, was your favorite of 2021. Was
I
Mesmer?
think it was. It was either my no. Paranormal Inc. was my favorite.
Okay.
Paranormal Inc. is something that is not here this year, but God, by God, fucking phenomenal. Um, but Mesmer was very high. I think it was my second or third
Hmm.
of that year, but I really liked it. I was a really strong defender of it, and because I know a lot of people didn't love it that year, but I enjoyed it. This change in the beginning killed it for me. I think it was absolutely needed, and it just taking that away just destroys the vibes. So it's not bad at all. Lots of good things, but they messed up my first scene. So 8 is Mesmer. What's your number 8?
My number 8 is Bloodline 1842. Um,
Okay.
I think I really wanted to like this house. I think there, on some level, I did. I do think that there is a gaping hole here that is missing, but I just watched a walkthrough of the guns, and it seems like the guns seemed like it was more of an experience than it was a maze. So I think maybe I probably maybe wouldn't have actually liked it a little bit more, because it seemed more like um, more of a like, okay, we're gonna have this experience moment, than an actual maze, the way it was implemented. But I do think there is something fun here, and I hope eventually they figure out how to make this work, because they spent a lot of money on it. It is fairly new, and I do believe it should be around for a couple more years.
Yeah, as long as they change it and update it, I think you're right. I think it can work. It feels like they try to put a band-aid on it this year by taking away the guns but not doing much else. If you change the sections that are very clearly shooting with the laser guns and maybe make those official scenes, I think it could be pretty high on my list. It just takes that, and taking away a lot of the very clear, make sure to shoot the window. Like, no, we don't have laser guns. How are we going to shoot the window?
Right.
Like, don't tell that to me. I can't do it. Just those little tweaks can make it a maze that's long lasting, I think.
Cool.
Um,
You're number 7.
my number 7, you're going to kill me. I don't know if you are. You probably, I don't know.
Is
The
it
depths.
the depths?
Um,
Nah.
unfortunately, the runs we had, the main effect, one of the coolest effects, the fog with the lasers, were not working properly. Even the final run that was working the best out of every run we did wasn't where it was supposed to be. And I think that hurt it a lot. I also think this maze suffers for being too long, where there are so many sections in sort of darkness where nothing really happens, at least when there are no actors. Because I think this one was unfortunately, being its last year, was a victim of times it went in, there were not as many actors as there were supposed to be. I mean, every maze was like that, but this one felt like it because there's lots of big areas, and there's sections where I'm like, man, I'd love this if there were a bunch of people here, but there aren't, even though they're supposed to be. I still love this maze. I'm just saying some negative things about it to explain why it's where it is, but I really like it still. And the big scene is still absolutely phenomenal. And I'm gonna miss it. I'm gonna miss it when it goes.
Yeah, I have a little bit higher, but not much more higher. So I'm not sharpening a pitchfork or anything. You're good. You're good. You're still on the
Yet.
show. You're still on the show. My number 7 is Grimoire. I think that it has some good things going for it, but overall, I think the story is a bit lost on me. I think, obviously, I think this one potentially could last a little bit, because you could swap out a scene or two and still keep the meat and potatoes of this. So I think it could have some long last of the event, and it doesn't have to go anywhere anytime soon. But personally, right now, especially with the shortened pre-show, is um, number 7 for me.
So my number 6, and I'm debating myself, but I think I'm gonna stick to it, is Room 13. And even though it's technically below average, it's 6. I still really enjoyed it. I think if every run I got the types of runs I did on the second day, it'd be way higher. But I'm trying to average this out with what was my experience the first night? And it was not too good. But then the second night, it was great. So it's like, all right, somewhere in the middle. And I do think that as long as that house keeps being staffed and I have more experiences with it, this could be one of my top 4 or 5 or something like that. Because it legitimately was the scariest house I went to this entire year until I went to another house in Hollywood. But it was very scary. So that the scares and the interactions in there is what puts it at 6. But I think it can definitely go higher in future years if it keeps that up.
All right. Well, my number 6 is Origins Curse of Calico. I think I hate putting it here. It feels like a bit blasphemy because this is kind of the not scary farm house, but I do just think there's a lot more better above it, unfortunately. And yeah, it's number 6 for me.
It makes a lot of sense. It's not too much higher on mine, but I do get, and I do hope you have more runs of that when we go next time because
Definitely, it's not going anywhere. It's going to stick around for a
absolutely.
while.
Oh no, this will be here for a while. My number 5, that's where I'm on. Yeah, is Grimoire. And even though the story is not super clear, it's not, and I walked out of that saying, yeah, this is the worst story of the Knots mazes. It's the least coherent, the least easy to tell what's going on. It has such a vibe. Like it's the vibe house. That first scene is so silly, you know. Then you go to the trenches, like, but it's super immersive and it's black and white, and you teleport, and then you time travel to the 50s and enter this 50s the 50s, dining room, and everything's like super immersive. You can see like the outside, and then you walk the next room. There's a big fucking tree house. Like it just looks really cool. It is so pretty. It's very rare that I let sets like get this much into my head. I was one of the rare people who didn't put Dead Man's Spirit super high because I thought there was a lot of things that were lacking with it. But I don't know, something about these sets, um, an immersiveness in the sets. Maybe that's what it is. Because like there was lights when you're in the trenches to be like, oh no, like there's fire. You got to duck, and stuff like that. Like there was little elements like that that I really enjoyed. So that's why it's at 5. But I think Room 13 can go above it for sure next year.
My number 5 is The Depths. I think this one I just had so much fun walking through it. It was one of those that I knew it was leaving, so I just really wanted to run it, even a couple more times than I got to. But we got some decent runs of it. I thought it was fun. I agree with you that it wasn't all firing on all cylinders, and it definitely did feel understaffed at the times. But I think what was there, it was a very classic, iconic. I think if you wanted to like just show someone what a nuts scary farm maze feels like, this would be a good one just to throw on because it kind of has elements of everything that you're going to experience in a nuts maze.
Absolutely. Completely agree with you. And my number 4 is the second new maze on this list, the Chilling Chambers. I love this shit. It was so good. I loved almost every element to it. I guess it's only reasons why it's more towards the bottom is that once again, it is a compilation. I love compilations a lot, but they're never going to beat, like they're never going to be at the top for me just because of the nature of a compilation, except Slaughter Cinema was close, but Poltergeist beat it. Anyways, but just because of that. And I think something was going on with the finale of that maze, and I don't know what it was because it was built up in the narrator. uh I forgot the name. This is his very specific name. But was basically like, hey, all the not scary farm past are breaking out of here, they're busting out of here, get ready. And then you go into a room with mirrors and it looks really cool, and there's lots of gravestones of all these past mazes, and then nothing happens and the maze is over. Like, were there supposed to be people here, or is this just the ending? Like, That was the only part I'm like, all right, but everything else, like that's me nitpicking. Everything else I really enjoyed.
All right, my next one, and I believe we are on 4,
Mm-hmm.
is Room 13.
All right.
I've talked about how much I like this one. I think that this one is definitely more controversial. I think it probably, I'm not going to put words into their mouth, but I got the vibe that it would have been pretty low on Duff and Jess's list, but I love this shit. I think the aesthetic wise, it was really good. I thought the scares were good. I thought the story was good. I do think that some of the scenes were a bit they had a lot of repetition. I think some of them maybe lacked some of the um, detail that you would expect from a Knott's Maze, but there was so much other good stuff going on throughout the maze, and I think that the elixir story was really good. I was able to set aside some of the moments that were lacking and really just get engrossed into what was there and the story and what they're telling here, and that is and then there's those moments that just really wow me once you're hooked. They've already got you, and then they get you with walking on the rafters on the side of a skyscraper, and you're like, well, it's done. I'm loving this. That's where I was with Room 13.
It makes a lot of sense. Absolutely. I mean, must have been super impactful for you because it was a better Spirits of the Coven. It was kind of
Oh, it
what you
was.
wanted from
It's
that.
exactly what I wanted with Spirits of the Coven. I think it was designed way better, told way better. It really built to something. I do think that maybe that the costumes and actual character in it, like this character designs were better of Spirits of the Coven, but other than that, everything else was done better in Room 13.
All right. And my number three, which is I think our biggest gap, but we've been relatively close on our list, like one or two spots differences for a lot of the stuff. This one's a three gap, three ranking gap, and Origins, the Curse of Calico is my number
Oh
three.
yeah, yeah, I did
I
pretty well.
I love this one. I love it so much. It's so much fun. So many cool effects. Um, the history of knots in there. The ghost town streets being in the maze itself. A great finale. And a great beginning. This is a maze that I'm not ready for it to go whenever it does.
I think it has some time. I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. I think you don't have to worry too much.
I hope not. It's technically earlier than Mesmer, so
Oh, really? It's
maybe
old,
that'll be the
older.
combo Origins and Mesmer, and eventually.
Eventually. All right. Well, my number 3 is Waxworks.
Okay.
I really loved this one. I thought it was fun. I think it's also one of those that I think if you just um, could definitely show someone and be like, "Hey, do you want to see what a knots maze like? Just how elaborate and scary that they can be." You could throw this on. I thought it was fun. I I I would love to run this one a bunch more times.
All right. And my number two is not going to be your number one. I know it isn't. Unless I'm completely wrong. The Cinema Slasher. I really enjoyed this one. I liked it a lot. I think it's the most HHN feeling of all the Knots mazes this year. For sure. Um, Only reason it's at two, to be completely honest, is that I just liked one a little bit better. And that's the only reasoning I can really give. Cinema Slasher is a fantastic maze, and I'm can't wait to see it in future years.
Well, I think you might be wrong because my number 2 is the Chilling Chambers.
No, then
Uh,
I'm right.
no, because you said it wasn't going to be my number 1.
Oh no, I
I
thought
thought
it was. Sorry, I said it. Whatever.
okay,
I'm stupid.
yeah,
Yes, Chili
yeah.
Chambers.
Chilling Chambers is my number 2, which means the Cinema Slasher is my number 1.
Yes.
Okay, okay. So I just misunderstood you.
No,
Um,
I probably said it wrong, but
okay.
but go on.
But yeah, Chilling Chambers was great. I think of literally a compilation anniversary house of an event that was my first year. I really didn't have high hopes for it. I thought it was going to be just something that was mid at best. But I was just blown away by how fun this was. I think they did a really good job about, you know, recreating these really amazing things. And you know, it did have an actually decent story um, to go through each one. So I really like this.
All right, and my number one is gonna be different, I know, from everybody's list, including yours. And that's Waxworks. I love this shit. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the setting, the actual fear I have of it, the campiness and a little bit of parts, the grossness, the effects, the scale. I don't know. There's lots of elements to it. They all work for me. Love it. It's a great maze, and it's one I hope we run to first again next year because I love this maze so much. And moving on to your number one.
And my number one, and I can say this with authority that this I believe is also Duff and Chess's number one, because I believe that they have said it a couple of times to me, and that is Cinema Slasher. This is just another level, man. They um, just did so great with what they were trying to portray here. They were, like you said, parroting the the big three um, slashers, and they just did it so well. I think it just has so much fun. Some great elements, some giant scenes. Really, really, really fun. I can't wait to go through this house again.
All right, and those are rankings. And I will say we probably had a little bit more to talk about on this episode, but to be honest, we're hitting 2 hours.
Yeah, I was gonna say this. I There are some stuff that much more going on when it comes to Knott's Berry Farm, like the food and drink and the buffet that we did, and Fright Lane and the Lantern and the Legacy Store, and our overall thoughts. I think we should definitely save this when we have Duff and Jess and Jonathan from the hotline who experienced the one night with us near the end of the year. I think we'll have some sort of West Coast wrap up show where we discussed the West Coast haunts and our final thoughts on them. I think we should save some of that for that, and we should just really just kind of go into wrapping up for tonight.
I completely agree.
Uh, but Jonathan, what are your overall thoughts of the event?
After missing it for a year, I'm all happy to say it's good to be back. I love Not so much. I don't think I'll be able to miss a year again, even if it won't have as many new things as this year did. The vibe is just so good. The houses are so good. The zones are some of the best I've ever seen.
Yeah.
This event is
It's
really
amazing.
special.
And we didn't even talk about the rides, how most of the rides are open and they're all really fun to do at night.
Mhm.
There is just a ton of fun stuff to do at this event. Really, it's going to be hard to experience all of it in one night. So you really need to give yourself at least 2 nights to experience this.
And finally, I mean, you asked me what I thought about this year overall. This was your first ever Knots. What are your overall thoughts?
It was amazing. It's amazing. I think you really can't compare it to HHN because it's its own thing. It has its own quirks. It has obviously some things that I think does better than HHN, some things that does worse. I don't think you can really compare it, but I think the love and passion,
Future
and
us here, because we actually do
time,
have some news that came
money
out
that they put
before
into
we
this
were
event
able to
really
release
does
the
show.
show that we're splicing
And I
in
can't wait to go
here.
back.
Jonathan, we have an official name for the Las Vegas project. It came out that we have an official name, and it is the name that was heavily rumored. It is Universal Horror Unleashed.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I like the name a lot. I like you said, I know there was a permit filed for it, but it's nice seeing it, officially announced and having a nice logo. Though I'm sure that will change. That logo will be updated later, but it's a nice logo.
Yeah, we got a good logo, we got an official name, and we got some kind of official kind of press release on kind of what we're going to get. So the press release says a variety of unique, immersive, and horror centric experiences surrounded with eerie eateries and bone chilling bar areas. It will deliver thrills Universal horror fans have come to love and excite anyone looking for a new level of um, expert. What? Let's try that.
Experiential entertainment.
Okay, let's try that again.
Okay.
It will deliver on all the thrills Universal fans have come to love and will excite anyone looking for a new level of experiential entertainment. Guests can expect continuously updated experience and a must see seasonal event with one of a kind merchandise. So they have confirmed that this will be constantly changing throughout the seasons, and a bunch of different seasonal offerings. So that's really cool.
I mean, it's so weird, right? You know, Horror Nights itself is just a seasonal event. So the fact that we're having a year-round horror experience that in and of itself will have seasonal events is really interesting. I wonder if each event will have like a different type of experience, like if they switch out whatever they have with like a new IP or a new you know, whatever, you know, like a new original thing like every season or so. Like that could be really cool.
Yeah, definitely. Um, Keep an eye out because we're gonna have a lot of, I think, probably standalone episodes where we really just speculate about what we're going to see here. So yeah, there's a lot of content coming down the line. I think solely just about this Las Vegas project. So that definitely keep an eye out.
All right, and we're back to talk about the Tales and Terror and Nightmares haunted attraction. We were invited for media weekend by Tales of Terror, so thank you so much for inviting us. And you and I actually got to go check out the event.
Yeah, we did. You and I went. It was held at the Central Florida Fairgrounds, and it's a collaboration of two different haunt companies, the Tales of Terror and Never Ending Nightmare. So there's actually two mazes there.
Yeah, which is really exciting. We'll talk about later of which haunt has which maze, and you know we'll get into the details of each one. But basically, this event, to sum it up generally, it contains two haunted mazes, like you said. It has vendors, food trucks, a bar, tons of live entertainment. Which some of the examples we can tell you of live entertainment is that there were scare actors roaming the event and sometimes would pop in queues and talk to you while you're waiting in line, which was a super fun experience. We got some nice pictures, and there was a band playing music, which when we entered they were playing Blinding Lights appropriately,
They
and so
were.
they were. It was like, ooh, it feels like HN31 again. And they also had this performer who was like blowing fire and like had fire sticks and doing like some performances with it, which was super cool.
Yeah, they had a fire breather. It was really neat, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, it was there was a lot of entertainment, and I'm sure there's going to be more entertainment in the coming weeks as well. Some other things to note is that for the trails themselves, you can, in addition to just doing the trail normally, just walking through like you normally do, you can also purchase as an add-on a high intensity like band, and this will allow the actors to touch you. It's very consensual. Like you buy the band, and so like these actors can touch you, and if you don't want to be like touched in certain ways, they'll refrain from that, or at least from what we saw they did. Actually, Mike, do you want to give the example of
Yeah.
yeah.
So we saw a character at the kind of the facade of one of the mazes. He saw that they were in character, saw that they were wearing the high intensity necklace, and so but then he still asked for consent to if they to to spank them with
There you
with
go.
his belt, in a very silly way. But and people were enjoying it, and there were a lot of people who did not want to be lightly spanked by his belt, and he refrained from doing so. We
Absolutely.
did not get the high intensity um, necklace, so we did not get spanked.
No, we could have, but we're like, no, we're okay. We're
Yeah,
good.
we're okay. We're good.
Some people like that and enjoy that, and for them, I'm so happy. If you like that kind of stuff, then you'll enjoy this. That's just not our things personally, on like a personal
Yeah,
level.
so we can't really speak to the necessary to the high intensity upgrade because we didn't experience it ourselves. So we don't know exactly what type of experience you would get. But I also saw on their website, Jonathan, I don't know if you saw this. There's like an additional high intensity level. There's like the high intensity upgrade, and then there's a higher level that said something about that you will get like slimed.
Yes. I think I might be wrong. I think when I went to the event, it was called the Freaked Up Experience or something like that. And yeah, they put stuff on you, which for some people they really enjoy that. I know. I saw they did something similar in previous years, and I know a lot of people really enjoyed that and were posting pictures going like, "Oh, look at, I got, stuff on me," and they really like that. I have like a aversion to slime. I don't like it, like or whatever. I don't want to touch it. That's just one of my things. So I think I would die if that
Yeah,
happened
no,
to me.
not
Like I
for
wouldn't
me.
be living now. I wouldn't be here to record this podcast. But for the people who like that sort of stuff, once again, like that experience will probably be for you. That seems it seems really fun if you like that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So definitely take a look at those different ticket packages because it looks like each day they're a little bit different as well. And I am currently not seeing the high intensity. Well, I see the high intensity upgrade, but I don't see the higher than that. So they might have got rid of the sliming. So definitely take a look on the day you decide to go if they still have that because I am actually not seeing that on their website anymore. But I did see that just a few days ago.
It was definitely listed at the event that we went to. Maybe they did get rid of it, but definitely just ask if you go, if you're interested in that stuff. Uh, for sure.
They may have ran out of slime.
It's possible.
Yeah, because
They
I,
could
I,
have.
I do not see it on here anymore.
They put it all on one specific, just one
Yeah,
person.
just one guy just took all the slime.
Uh, And now we're gonna get into some of the two trails that we experienced. We're gonna give like very slight spoilers, like, but it's nothing too spoilery for this trail. We're not gonna spoil, everything that you see or whatnot. We'll just give some of our experiences that we had in these trails, to show you, what we experienced. But before we get into that, before we get into the slightly spoilery part of it, what did you think of the trails overall, Mike?
I thought they were good. I would say if you're an HHN fan, go in and knowing that this is a local haunt. This
Yes.
is this is a local haunt. Go in with a local haunt feel. But when it comes to local haunts, I think the main thing that a local haunt has going for it is one, you're going to be pulsed, so you're going to be going in purely by yourself. And that's one thing that I think we experienced both days is that there are about 90 seconds between parties in both houses, 90 seconds between parties. So you are going to be by yourself. And the main thing I think that's going to be different is that these characters really characters interact with you in the mazes. So you get a really long kind of experience, which is I think the bread and butter here is that you're not really necessarily going for the elaborate sets or the special effects, and there are those in these mazes, which I was pretty impressed by. There are some pretty, some nice sets. They're not HHN quality, but I don't think anyone's expecting them to be.
Mm.
But it's going to be the interactions with these characters that are going to be the real selling point here.
Oh yeah, we had a lot of good experiences in both trails. I mean, there was even a point where they were like calling out our names, which we told them they didn't know beforehand. It wasn't like they had a sheet going like, "We know Mike and Jonathan are coming in here."
Yeah.
Um,
They weren't prepared for us. No, I'm not not anything like that. Jonathan just spilled the beans about my name. Saying like, Mike, wait, wait, don't leave me with this creepy character. And then this character started calling my name, to get me to come back, because I was out of there. I was done. I
you
was
were
I was cruising through that maze.
You were gone. But yeah, if you like local haunts, this is a great one to check out. And if you like personalized experiences and scare actor interaction, these trails are gonna be for you. And without further ado, I think we should just get into each trail, which there are two of them, and we'll start off with the one made by the Never Ending Nightmare, which is Tormented Curse of the Bayou, and this was the first trail that we experienced. Once again, we're gonna get into very slight spoilers. If you don't want to know anything about them, just skip forward to the end. We'll go over how to purchase your tickets. Uh,
Yeah, this is the one that was, at least the night we went, was guarded by the guy who was, the spanking guy.
yes, yes, it was. It was definitely the moment where we're like, yeah, we're glad we didn't get the touching necklace. We're good.
Again, he asked for permission.
He did. He did.
He asked for permission.
Yeah, I would have loved to see her to see just like the guy's like, do you want to get spanked? Like, no, we're
No,
good.
we're good. We're good.
um, but what did you think of this trail?
This one was good. I think we may have went there at a cast change because the first portion was lacking some characters, but then I think we did started to pick up, and like I said, once there was this character interactions, that's really when that kind of made both of these mazes, is interacting with the characters. I think there was the one that stands up to me is like the it was like she was like a witch doctor or something. She
Mhm.
was very scary.
Oh yeah, and I think it was that same actress that like followed us. Like we were, it was just one sort of open area, and like the actress wouldn't leave me alone, like in a good way, in a very good way. Like she just was like up near me, and she just kept walking near me. I'm like, all right, hello, how? And she was just completely silent, and I'm like, I'm just trying to make some conversation. I'm not good at that, like spontaneous, conversation. Like, hello, how are you? How's your day? And she goes like, "I want your soul." I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna go. Goodbye." Like, but that
Yeah,
was that was really fun.
yeah. That's the hardest part about these, is that you have to prepare some responses for to interact with these people.
Yes, it's not like horror nights where you can sort of just get through without
Yeah, because
talking at
they're
all.
yeah, they're just random triggers. You're not expected to have conversation.
Exactly. But yeah, that was one of my favorite parts about this trail. I think the sound design was really cool too. I like the setting of it being in the bayou, and a lot of the sets were really well done. There was lots of mannequins with like cool blood, on them. Like you can see that they were killed, and just in brutal ways, and all their blood spilling over the place, and stuff like that. I think they did a really good job with the set design in this one, and it was pretty long too.
Yeah, yeah. They were decently length for sure.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this one a lot. But we're gonna move on to the next one now, which is called Genocorpse. The actual like lab is called Genocorp, but the actual title of the maze has the SE at the end, like Genocorpse. Haha. And this one is made by Tales of Terror. This one's the Tales of Terror Haunt. And what did you think of this maze?
This one definitely, uh was I if I had to pick one or the other, this is definitely the one that I enjoyed a little bit more.
Hmm.
It I was definitely kind of, they had some special effects in this one, And they had, I don't want to spoil it, but they had a really cool um, set piece such prop that I was not expecting
Oh,
in the middle.
absolutely. There's some big props in here, actually.
Yeah.
And I just I agree. I prefer this one, even though they're both really good. I just like the I mean, if you just look at the poster they released, the vibe of this trail is a little more just interesting to my taste. But I still love both, obviously. This one we had a lot of fun interactions. Like there was a moment where there was a scare actor with the syringe, like trying to you know give us a shot. We're like, no, we're good. We're
Maybe
okay.
if we had the intensity upgrade, that's how we would have got slimed.
It's
It's from the
possible.
syringe.
There was like a bed in there. I have no idea if this is what happens, but I do wonder if they like put you in the bed or something and do all
Oh,
sorts of things like.
I sure hope not. That sounds like my worst nightmare.
Oh my goodness. Though no, and they were like, oh, we can give you uh we can cure all your illnesses. We can cure them all by killing you. It's like, see, I see what you did there. Because I wouldn't have any illnesses because I'd be dead. That was clever.
All right. We should probably wrap it up. We've been talking going on for a long time.
We have.
All right. So, tickets can be found at talesofterrorhaunt.com. And by the time you're listening to this, I believe they will be going for another weekend up
Yeah.
until, let's see, up until I believe Halloween. Yeah,
And I
Halloween
think
is their last Monday. Oh no, Tuesday the 31st is their last, and then they are going throughout the weekend, Thursday through Sunday. They are not operational on the 30th.
I do think that they said on the website that they're possibly thinking of dates for November. Like they're gonna extend it a little bit. So if that
Oh, I already
happens,
see those here. Yep,
oh,
they're
there we
they're
go.
also Thursday and Friday, the November 2nd and the 3rd.
Perfect. So you have a little bit of time to experience this awesome local haunt, and just do something different than HHN for a change. We do HHN so much, because we spend a lot of money, so we're gonna go a lot and have a lot of fun, obviously. But sometimes it's nice during the year to do things that aren't HHN, just to sort of go out of the boundaries of just one event, just experience this Halloween season doing a ton of other things, and not just doing one thing over and over and over again. It definitely helps, uh, stop the burnout you have of any specific event. And I know this event also is going to have some special events in the future too. I think they're going to have like blackout nights and nights where you can go to the trails multiple times and stuff like that. So definitely make sure to check the website, figure out what date works out best for you and what type of experience you want. Because I know they have a lot of different options and different types of tickets and different types of has everything you want, for anything you're looking for. They probably have it. And yeah.
Yeah, I even saw something about like an EDM night.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, definitely keep an eye out. There's all sorts of different types of events. One thing we will warn you is that it looks like there is a parking fee of $10. So be prepared for that on top of any ticket package you decide to.
Absolutely. We once again want to thank Tales of Terror for inviting us to this event. We had so much fun. We had a great time. We really appreciate it. And yeah, we definitely are going to come back next year and whatever future events you may have.
All right. Well, that just about does it. We will be back next week, hopefully. I know that during the event, it's really hard to get our schedules lined up. So I appreciate you guys bearing with us, but we will do have some great content coming down the line for you. So keep an eye out on your feed, and you can always find us on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at HHN365 and at TikTok at 365pod. We have an amazing Discord. The link is in the description. And we have our merch shop at hhn365.com. You can always leave us a voicemail at 407 906 4134, and we'll see you in the streets.